Welcome back to Raj's in the City. I'm Josh.
And I'm Abhi. It's been a while, huh?
Yeah. Hey, Suraj.
What's up, guys?
And hello again, Father Rajeev. Hey, we are back in business.
Yes, sir.
What you see here is our kind of like our new, well, almost new setup. We're in our new house or apartment, I guess.
Yes.
But
It's called the St. Joseph household.
That is the name of our household. We wanted to. I guess we can go into that later, but we're here. We're in a new place, and it's gonna be the standard place now. We're not hopping from house to house anymore. We got one place. We're living in one place. Where do we go from here? I mean, we wanted to talk about why we wanted to do this,
How we ended up here.
The journey.
and what we plan on doing.
Yes, sir.
So let's start with where we started. That kind of starts with you, right?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you guys have seen the vlog yet, but we go into a little bit about like how crazy it was that we all ended up kind of moving in together, and how that came about was a couple months ago. I believe it was maybe early December or late November. I kind of had this idea of like, hey, if we can make it work financially, like why don't we all just move in together? We've been doing these back and forth NorCal, SoCal trips. You guys are all online. Rajeev here. I'm here. So why don't you guys just come here? We can stay here for 6 months. That's not too long of a commitment. It's just the right amount to where, you guys are still doing justice to your own duties back home, since pretty much everything's remote right now, right? And yeah, I just kind of had, looking back, really an inspiration of the Spirit to like ask. Because initially I really didn't want to ask because I didn't want to like get our hopes up for this idea that just seemed like so crazy.
Oh, mind you, Rajeev did not.
Yeah. This whole time,
nothing.
There was nothing
This is
there.
all news to me.
Yeah,
Kept it under wraps.
So that a part of that was like I also didn't want to get up Uchen's hopes, but a second part of it was like the surprise factor. I was like, this would be so cool to surprise him with this. And yeah, so I initially just brought it up to Josh. I was like, hey, like, what do you think about us just like living together for these next 6 months? Because Josh was like the one that I was like most likely it might work out. He's been out of the house for a while, and like so his parents are kind of adjusted to that idea of Josh not being home. And he's older, so I think I was like, okay, this actually might work if we can make the finances work, right? Suraj and Sean, I honestly had no hope for. I was kind of just like, I don't know like how their parents will feel about this. I don't know what the situation will be like. I don't know if they'll be too busy with school, if Sean will have in-person classes, all these things, right? But even then, I was just like, why not just ask them? Like, if somehow we can make this work, this will be awesome. So I just brought it up with you guys, and I think initially you guys were pretty confident that it wouldn't work, right, for yourself.
No way.
Both of you. Josh, you were a little bit more like, maybe, like if I can figure out the finance part. Right?
Yeah. I'm just chuckling because like I remember I originally brought the idea up to my mom, and like I like kind of like on my personal side of things, like I had been feeling like I needed to, like for a while I was thinking about like where is the Lord going to take me, because I was at home and it was beautiful being at home. Like I personally I love being with my siblings. I love being with my parents.
Yeah, and the crazy thing was like I think a couple months before Abhi had asked like me and Josh are like live close to each other, and so we would like hang out and stuff. And like I had brought up this idea of like, oh, sometime in the future, next couple of years, when we're financially a little more settled, maybe we could live together and whatnot and stuff.
Right.
And so and then it just happened so fast.
Yeah.
And
So it was weird how like we had already kind of been desiring this even before you mentioned it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, even the desire for all of us before that was even just like for me is I really felt like I needed to get out of my house again. Like it was just like this phase of my life where I felt like, hey, like I needed some clarity away from home. And I think for all of us, we can kind of see, regardless of whether you have problems in the household or not, there's always that like kind of cloud of, parents, siblings, everything that maybe there's a certain extent to where you kind of need a little bit more freedom to make certain decisions in your life. And I kind of came to that point. So I was looking for all these options, but none of them really seemed like really feasible. One was like, okay, maybe I should live with like some random roommate. But then I was like, I don't know. That just feels weird. I don't know if it would be good for me, like spiritually and things. The second thing was like, hey, why don't you like find like a Catholic roommate? And that part was like, I was like, oh, maybe I can make this work. I'll go on like, there's like different parishes that have like roommate listings and stuff. So I was like, okay, maybe I can make that work. But then the problem with that was, again, like really, I don't know, like the comfort level that's there. And it's like, just because somebody claims to be a Catholic, then it would like, so all these different things that I was like, okay, this probably won't work. And then ultimately I was kind of just like, I really don't know how else this will work. So it was just like a Hail Mary of like, hey, if I can make this work with these guys, that would be awesome. And yeah, so I kind of just put that desire out to the Lord, like this would be really good for us. And I think that, Lord, more than I do. So yeah, I just gave it up, told you guys to, and then I guess from there it was really on your side, like what was going to happen. There was like this feeling out period of like, okay, day one, we had like a scheduled thing. Day one, I'm going to talk to my parents about this. Day two, I'm going to bring up this.
Drop the seeds.
Yeah. Yeah. And like these different phases of like kind of breaking into where our parents are with this.
I mean, that was definitely like I think that was, for me, was the biggest hurdle. Like I remember like us getting on a call before, like, with Sean and everyone, and like, we're like, okay, so like, we gotta, type out, like, why do we want to do this, kind of figure it out for ourselves.
PowerPoint.
Straight up. I mean, initially that was my idea. Like, I wanted to have this full thought out PowerPoint, because I've never proposed anything like this to my parents. And so like, I wanted exactly to know, like, why I want to do this, and be able to kind of communicate that to them. So yeah, it was definitely like scary, because bringing something like that up to my parents at first. But yeah, and I think like, and in my case particular, like, I've never left home before. I'm 20 years old, never moved away. I commute to college, and I'm also an only child. So that, I mean, there's the kind of, I don't think I'm spoiled, but definitely, being an only child, there are its benefits. And so yeah, I mean, and so it was definitely not an easy thing to ask of my parents, but I mean, one thing led to another, and them. I think the beautiful thing was, especially on my dad's part, like, he still, I don't think he fully sees why I need to do this or why this is important to me. But I think the beautiful thing was that he was able to sit down, listen to me, and although he may not fully see eye to eye, letting me kind of be my own man and supporting me in that. Whether initially the financials as well, but I think that was a beautiful thing about that.
Yeah. I had a similar kind of experience from my parents, but I always like to share like how I brought it up to my parents, because there's this thing that everybody makes fun of me for, where I always say like I have a proposal, because I always have proposals. I have new ideas coming up, so I always say like I have a proposal. So I did that to my parents one time before we prayed our rosary, and I always give.
You raised your hand.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the joke. I have a proposal, but like right before the rosary. I remember I always make sure to set up context. Any good friend of mine knows that I love to just lay out all the details and then build from there, right? So I set up the context, and I was like, Amma and Chacha, like, I know it's hard, like, to let me travel to NorCal, and then I'll be coming to SoCal, like, because it's like this coronavirus and everything. So like, what if I went to NorCal and I just didn't come back?
Gave him the look.
Yeah, and then they were all like, "What are you talking about?" And then I explained that, like, we brought this idea up of moving in together, and like this would be a time for us to like really work on the podcast, but also like I felt like I needed this for myself to really, like, I remember I explained to my parents, like, I've come here to learn how to struggle, because like I was what's my life look like? Like, I've had 4 years of seminary, and seminary doesn't, you struggle in seminary for sure, but not in the way that like in the way that like you struggle when you're trying to live by yourself, or you're trying to find a part-time job, you're trying to juggle school, cooking for yourself,
cleaning the dishes.
Do you
mind sharing the grocery shopping story about like your what you used to do like back home, and then like having to count the cost?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like before all this, right? Like whenever we would go grocery shopping, like my siblings and I, like, we would just, find a recipe online. Didn't matter how expensive it was. And we'd take my mom's debit card and just go, right? Not count the cost. And then like 2 weeks ago, Suraj and I went grocery shopping for the first time for the house. and we would discern every single item. we literally held up
the cereal box.
we literally held up a cereal box, and we were like, but do we need this? And we did it. We did it.
We put it back.
So we put it back.
The Honey Nut Cheerios. We said bye-bye to them.
We were at Costco, and as we picked up a bunch of stuff, and we were at the checkout line, and like everything's getting checked out and stuff, and Josh is not really looking at like the price adding up or anything, but like we were just talking about like because we had just gotten this Costco membership, and then I was like, yeah, dude, this because I was seeing the price add up
for itself.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, yeah, the card pays for itself. I'm glad we got this. So Josh was out here thinking that we got some massive discount or something.
I'm thinking like, dang, this is great.
It's about to be like $50. That check hits, it's like $250 or something with the gift card that I gave.
So thrown off.
Yeah.
It was wild. But yeah, like I brought it up to my parents, and what was the point? Yeah, like my parents were supportive too. I mean, I hate to like flame my mom or anything, but she said like, you can stay here until you're.
He learned the hard way through his homilies.
but like this was good. My mom said, you can stay at home till you're 30, and I'm sure like every mom would say that to a child. But my dad. But at the end of the day, like my mom and my dad knew that like I needed this, and they're encouraging for me. And they were particular on like, as long as you come back in July, we're good. so I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
But
and I think we can say a similar thing for Sean as well. Like
Sean's here, by the way.
He's just doing the background stuff, But I think for him too, like he's never left his house. 20 years, same age as me, and like he close knit family, his a dog, 2 siblings, and his parents, right? But I think definitely for him as well, similar experience as I. Just like that's like initial fear of bringing it up to like you've never shared something like this before. So yeah,
right. But miraculously, really, like we all got the yes. Like for me, like it was kind of like, okay, yeah, Josh is probably gonna get it. Suraj actually got it,
and then we're like, okay, what the heck?
And then
Sean got it.
Yeah.
Like, yo,
so Sean was like the last thing. I was like, oh man, I don't know, like because at that point, the biggest thing for me was like. His parents don't know me as well as both of your parents do. Right. So I was like, I would understand if that like trust factor wasn't there yet and stuff, and like, oh, he's moving with this random guy in NorCal. Like, they knew we were doing the podcast, but like, I hung out with your parents so much, so I was like, okay, that makes a little sense. But Sean, I was like, I would totally understand. All they see is like college dropout kid taking my son to NorCal. That's not the best image.
Ruin him as well.
Right. So I was like, okay, I would understand. But yeah, man, it was truly just like an affirmation that like everyone got the yes, right? Yeah. But it didn't stop there.
Yeah, I mean, the big part of like convincing our parents was convincing them that Abhi had this job lined up.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the next thing to talk about. I'm gonna let you explain that.
Yeah, no, I mean, basically, I had this job lined up, and that was one of the primary motivating factors that I felt like this could work, because I was like, I have this job lined up. I am totally okay with like covering the financial part of it and stuff, and like, of course, we all had contributions, but I was like, hey, we can make this work. I'll have this job. I don't have any other family expenses or anything. This is like a perfect time. I just saw it as me investing in myself, right? Mm-hmm. Of this time to spend with my brothers and like just grow, right? And then so we were planning according with all of that. We had our budgets lined up and everything, and we were like, this finally worked. You guys had some amounts set up from your parents, but then New Year's I found out I didn't get the job, and it was like
that was so stressful.
Yeah,
dude. Especially like that week leading up to New
Year's.
Year's.
So I was supposed. Okay, actually, it wasn't even New Year's. That's the frustrating thing, right? So first, I was supposed to find out before Christmas. I was supposed to find out, I think, on like 21st, December 21st. But then I was told, okay, we'll find out on New Year's. And then on New Year's, we still didn't get a response about this job. And
like every day, like Sean, Josh, and I were like, so you hear back?
Yeah, no, but the beautiful thing throughout that all is, I think Sean brought it up initially, is that they all started doing the Divine Mercy Chaplet for me throughout this whole team, throughout the whole time, and like that alone was such a powerful experience. I'd never like just with a group of brothers just gotten together and just prayed about like a specific intention, and it was about the job, but also just like where our futures were going in general. And like just the love I felt from that, but also just like the peace, right? Because I knew, regardless of what was to come, like this was from God, because we were handling it correctly. And I think that's such like a big thing, not just even with this move, but with things in general. I think that just that utter peace of knowing like, hey, you're doing right by God. So like whatever happens, right? And so going forward with that, ultimately, like I didn't find out on New Year's, but then, so I kind of still holding on to this thing. But then slowly I was kind of starting to get like, I'm probably not getting this, but I still kind of like was like, okay, maybe. And then I think like 2 weeks later, we like kind of were just like, hey, like do I have the job or not? We asked the guy, and I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And so I think almost immediately I just kind of just sat down and I was like this won't work, like
he got on a call with us. Oh my
and it really wasn't
phone call of my life.
Because we went through this whole thing with really this open hands spirituality, as Josh talks about, right? Of like, hey, if this doesn't work, it doesn't work. But that's fine. We're doing what we
and the crazy thing is all the impossible things that we like that would have stopped this were like already behind us. Our parents,
everything we thought would be,
and like everything was behind us, and then this hits us. And it was like an hour-long call, and like the most depressing call, and not of like anyone's fault, but just simply because of like the way what just happened. Right?
Yeah.
It was tough.
So I called them and I break the news. I'm like, guys, I didn't get the job, and so I really don't think we can do this. I can't really afford this. Like we can't afford this, and it just wouldn't be prudent for us to do this without that. And so, like you said, it was like an hour-long call of just me just kind of ranting through like all these different things. And it wasn't even just the move. I was just like going into so many different things. Okay, now I need to do this. I need to move here, and I need to start doing this. And all these different things that I was like, okay, like all these plan Bs I had, right? And but then like after that call, I don't even know why. Like, because at that point, I really had just given up on this idea, like of like just letting it go and like move on. And that's why I called you guys and told you. But then after that call, I was kind of just like, all right, one last Hail Mary. Like, what do I have to lose?
Hail Mary never.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yes, I just this one last, literally a Hail Mary, and then I went and I talked to my parents about like just like a business idea I had. And like, hey, like, this doesn't work. And for context, I'll go way more into this. We have a whole podcast coming up about just like unconventional routes and like what I'm doing with my career and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I had this thing of like this moment where I just kind of paused, and I was just like, hey, like it'll be okay. Like regardless of what happens, if nothing works out, you always can go back to barbering. And I knew how much I was making from that, and I was satisfied with that, and I knew, it would be fine. I've always kind of taken these past couple of years, and I was telling you guys this earlier, as my own little college experience of like taking different classes per se, right? We kind of joke about how my life is on like a semester system.
That's right. Nobody actually knows this, but Abhi has been attending UG-Dub for a while, University of God's Will.
Yeah. So like it's crazy. Like really everything has been in like 6-month increments. I have like this business idea, and then I do it for 6 months, and then I realize, okay, maybe it's really not giving up. Like it's just this idea of recognizing, okay, I need to move on to the next thing, because you can stay in something and like grasp onto it for too long, right? And so I would just kind of move on with that. And really this, I thought, was like my final straw of like, no, I can't do this anymore. Right. But then I realized like, hey, if I was in college, I would still have about 2 years left. So why not just take this time to like, again, just venture out, try another business. And my goal has really always been like, the whole reason I even do anything besides like growing like my barbering, like my grooming business, all these things, is literally so I have more time to focus on ministry. Yeah. Because with barbering, the one downfall that's very honestly there is the fact that it's a job that's directly related to your time, right? So you have to be there. And so I recognize that, okay, that would take away a little bit from what I'm able to do with ministry. Right now, one of my biggest talents, I like to say, is my availability. Like I'm just available like most of the time to do what needs to be done. And it's so totally okay if that wouldn't be the case, but I wanted to see if I could make it work, if I can find something that I could do that my time would not be paying for my salary, right? And so I kind of just talked to my parents, and I was like, I've been looking into real estate things for a while. I've always loved it, and always loved the idea of it, and I'm just kind of just waiting on like how to go about it. But then my parents, so I went and talked to them about this. I was like, hey, like, can we think about how we can start this as like a business, in terms of like different investments and doing things and finding properties for people here in different states and all these different ideas, and kind of put it together. And then actually my dad at the same time was already thinking about this. So he was already wanted to get into this, because he was also thinking about like, you know, maybe he kind of wanted to move on from the company and see what else he could do. And so it was just like this moment where like, okay, there was this mutual understanding of like, okay, what can we do to make this work? Because my dad, you know, thanks be to God, has kind of understood why I kind of do what I do. He doesn't agree with everything, but he at least kind of understands why I'm doing what I'm doing. It really is to kind of try and make time for ministry. And so it kind of worked out, and we worked out this way that I could support myself for the next year or two, and namely these next 6 months, right? The most important part, the whole reason I went and even asked, was like, how can we make this work? Because like, nothing else had changed, right? Everything else we said still stood, right? About the goodness of this move and like how it could be good for us. And you guys had gotten all your parents' approval. And that was honestly one of the ultimate driving factors for me. It was like, it seemed like everything was clicking. Like I was okay with it, but at the same time, I was like, it can't be the case that all of this was set up for nothing. You know? That's why I ultimately just went and did it, and then it worked out, and we're here, right? The apartment thing.
Yes.
You want to explain that part? Yeah.
Honestly, no, you got. No, Josh, you want to go for that one? I don't remember.
This is about looking for apartments.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Just like our final straw. So
We looked for like. So once Abhi got like that final yes, right? Then it was just go time. Like we did so much research on like apartments in the Northern California area, mostly like Fremont, and
because we wanted to be close to the parish in proximity, and you know, close with Rajeev and things like that. And so we had requirements.
Right? So we were looking in the area. We were looking on Craigslist and apartments.com, et cetera, and like we're calling all these places, trying to find a place that can like, one, like is big enough, two, can fit our budget, and three is like close enough to you, Acha. Still, Acha does not know anything.
No clue.
No idea. Actually, we're hopping on like calls with Achin about other projects, creators meetings, and in our minds we're all like, "Oh, Acha does not know what's coming to him." You know? But
I was literally hanging out with you guys a week before.
Yeah, you were in Los Angeles
coming here.
Oh, gosh, there's like a Holy Communion at that time. And then we hung out in LA, and he had no idea. And through our minds, like, you know, a bunch of things, all these apartment applications.
We hadn't gotten it at that point.
No.
Not just have we not gotten it. We applied to 2 apartments, paid the application fee, and got rejected.
Yeah.
So I remember, I think I was like, finally, like, yeah, this one will apply, but if we don't get it, I am not trying to apply anymore.
So there was one more, and I think the most significant thing is that like, I think like this one was like completely random, you know, like this was like Sean left a voicemail, and then this lady calls back, and she said it's what is it, like it's a 2-bedroom, it's a 1.5 bath, and it fit like under our budget,
right? Because for context, initially, we were only even looking at 2-bed, 1-bath because that's all we could afford, right? Like we could not find anything more, and I don't even know how we thought we would make that work. I guess we could have somehow, but it's like even with one,
we don't have to go into that 2-bed.
Let's just say even with the 1.5 bath, that's a struggle with 4 boys. Okay.
But yeah, like at the end of the day, like this place, like literally just offers itself to us. It's the best place for the cheapest price.
Yeah, best location.
Of all the
really
places we applied to, this is the best.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we applied, and that was the most stressful week of all time, and we got it.
Yeah.
And now we're here. why are we here?
No, and then we came, and still Achin has no clue.
Oh,
So me and Josh pack all of our stuff that we need to move from SoCal to NorCal into my car. Both of us drive up here. We get here, and actually, honestly, I've never moved anywhere like that. Moving in and out was the biggest pain ever. It took forever, so much energy. But anyways, we come in, and then Abhi comes in. Sean comes the next day, and
That night we surprised Etchen, right?
yeah, the next day.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sean,
Yeah, the next day Sean came, and then that night we definitely,
yeah.
And then, so the context was, Abhi had texted Achin, yo, Acha, I have some of my friends, they just moved into an apartment, can you just bless it? And then how was that for you, like when he first messaged that?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's been very interesting to hear the story again. I've heard bits and pieces, and as I am hearing your struggle, I'm realizing that I honestly didn't have any struggle in the sense because I didn't know it. But I'm wondering if I should have gotten involved. But you know what? I think ever since we've gotten things going with Sarah Creatives and Suraj in the city, as a priest, I've just been able to just kind of surrender all things to the Lord, and so I'm content in the fact that I if you wanted to, I could have entered into struggle.
Sure.
But there's a peace
Yeah.
in knowing that you guys were going through all of this, and so that brings me to the day when you guys surprised me, because Abby did send me a text, and usually he's a little bit more detailed in his text about what exactly is happening. But I was going through a few things during that week, and I was like, okay, and I thought that maybe because you said you have some friends who are going to be there, so I thought, well, I was like, what is he doing? Why an apartment? Is it?
And Abhi friends? What?
No, but actually, as funny as that is, actually, because I definitely, if I had Catholic friends that wanted a house blessing, I would have introduced them to it. So that was
I thought maybe at first I thought this is not your apartment. Maybe it's maybe someone else's apartment. That you want me to bless and stuff. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just come.
a little conversion attempt.
Yeah, maybe talking to some friends who have gone away from the faith, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I just was totally at peace, and until I walked in, not too far from where we're sitting, I was like what? Whoa, what? You guys move here? Oh wow, that's awesome. Okay. So there wasn't. I don't know if I had much more of a reaction, but I was really happy. I was content because honestly, too, in right before you guys moved, I was feeling a little frustrated about certain things. Like we had a seasonal video, and I was like, "Is this ever gonna happen?" And then, I don't know, just conversations.
Yeah, for context, so that day, Rajeev was texting me. He's like, "So, when are we gonna get the season video out?" And then I was like, "Oh, Acha, Sean's been a little busy. Maybe a week or later or something." And then Achin literally responds, "Oh." Nothing else. No.
Achin is the master of guilt tripping over text. Okay, it wasn't just an O; it was an O period.
Oh yeah. He said, "Oh, period. Nothing else." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, it was over." But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was. I was a little bit, but I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know. They're college kids. They're got a lot going on. That's okay. But yeah, no, it was a good feeling to know that you guys were here, because we had, especially Abhi and I were going down to SoCal every now and then, and you guys were coming up here, and every time that we had together, it was beautiful. Some good fruits came out of that, especially in the videos and podcasts we've done. But I was thinking man, maybe we could do more, but it would help if you guys were all close by. So I was very, very happy, to say the least, when you guys moved in. Yeah.
But yeah, now that brings us to why are we here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of made it clear in our own discernments that the most important thing is our own kind of personal growth and holiness, especially. And that's why I think even at the outset, this is something that I was talking about Suraj with on the way up to NorCal, but we can come up with all our own reasoning, right? None of it actually justifies the trip, At the end of the day, if anybody were to ever ask me, oh, why are you moving to NorCal for 6 months, I really do want to say, and I feel convicted in being able to say that like God has brought me here. For what reason? I'm not. There's always going to be like, the Lord has a hidden agenda, and I want to be attuned to that. We have our ideas that we can discuss with you all, but at the end of the day, like the Lord's brought us here to reveal Himself to us in a new way, and I think we're all just really attentive and eager to see that.
Like practically, this makes no sense.
Yeah, we're in the middle of quarantine. It's the most expensive area in the U.S.
Straight up. But somehow, like, we're here, and I think as we've moved past these last 2 weeks, being able to be with Achin, receive a lot from his priesthood, and living with them as well. Like, I think I can definitely say like God has brought me here, and it's for Him that I'm here, nothing else.
Yeah, and like just these small examples, like in the last couple of weeks of just like the Lord like abundantly providing for us, like one thing that was always on our minds was finances, right? Like, are we gonna be able to get jobs here? Suraj got his job on the way to NorCal, on the drive. Like, so you're gonna be working at Amazon, so is Sean.
As a warehouse worker, nothing else.
This is all part-time, right? Just
Jeff
help.
Bezos.
And I'm glad to say, like, I've got my job today. I'm working at Sprouts, like work is work. Like, I'm just so happy that
Sprouts is a what?
It's a grocery store in Northern California. Yes, you're right. We have an international audience.
I think another thing also to like kind of circle back to, I don't know, I think it was you that said like, for us especially, we're very privileged to have the parents that we have.
Yeah.
We're not totally broke, at least, right? I think we can say on the average, somewhat well off. And so we've had the grace of receiving a lot from our faith formation from our parents, but like we've never really had it tested, right? Oh, okay, maybe the testing. Okay, so there's a lot of background noise. Just heads up, because we do live in an apartment. But anyways, sorry, that was distracting me as well. But the thing is, like, we've never really had our faith tested. Maybe the times where, we had an exam or, something like that, which I'm not trying to downplay that, but when, like, compared to, struggling for money or how are we going to get food for this day or that, like, we've never had to worry about any of that. And, like, this is where, like, that faith that we sit here and talk about on the podcast comes into action.
Yeah.
This is what it's about, right? And so, I think there's a lot of formations coming that way as well.
Yeah, we were just reflecting on how much we have already had to die to ourselves in the 2 weeks that we've been
adjusting to the different personalities of 4 individuals, strong-minded individuals, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember what was it, like I don't know if it was our last trip, but one of our trips to SoCal, we had a little bit of a fight about and like we just never had anything like that before, and like we all kind of just had like this tension, and honestly after that I was like, I don't think this will happen again. We kind of just like broke it down and stuff, and we haven't had anything like that big. But definitely, like, since we came here, I was expecting everything's going to be smooth sailing and stuff. But like you guys said, like, for all of us, I think there's been many times where it's just like, I want to choke him.
I actually didn't know that. Tell me how you really feel.
Like, I remember yelling at you earlier today about the volume of your phone. And then after that, I was like, dude, like, it's really not that big a deal in my head. But like just these little things, right? But then how we were talking about how it's not just been about like, oh yeah, we overcame that struggle, but like that struggle itself was so good for us, and it continues to be.
It will be good for us. Yeah.
And like I just wanted to hop on like the financial part of it, and like just our kind of worries about how we'd provide for ourselves and stuff. And you always say this one thing that I really like about like, you have your hands open and you ask for something from God, and He doesn't just provide what you ask for, but He provides abundantly.
Abundance.
Right? And I think like that's been literally true for us in the sense that we were so worried about having enough food. And the first couple of days, we would kind of ration it about, okay, 2 chapatis here, 2 chapatis there, fourth of a cupcake here.
We were literally splitting cupcakes.
And we had all this, and now we're worried about our food spoiling because so many people have given us food. So like we've had the ability, Achin, we've cleaned out the rectory fridge, and like I never thought that would be the concern about eating the food fast enough.
Yeah.
So like that alone is just so crazy to me.
Yeah. So all this to say that like God's just like we're here because the Lord loves us and He wants to bring us together. But I guess like we can also like talk about like the projects we want to do.
Yeah.
So one of them definitely like as you see like we want to continue the podcast. We want to be stable in our podcast and get some consistency going there. We've got a lot of ideas coming up from there. The vlogs, that's something I never expected. Like personally, I was really indifferent to the whole vlogging idea, but like after watching the first one, like first of all, shout outs to Sean, like great job on the vlog.
Amazing edits, amazing everything.
Yeah. And like I really see how like it's so important for us to do that because this lifestyle that we're living, like it's very, very unique. Like nobody really does this.
You guys pray supper every morning?
Yes.
Yeah.
The ceremony of our morning prayer. Yes.
That's right. Yeah, and we want to. I guess like now I'm really starting to realize that like we have this call to kind of share our lives with you guys. You know, the audience.
Like I think that's the thing. I think vlogging is a very popular thing, right? You see it on YouTube. And all these awesome vloggers, Casey Neistat. I love him, but like we see all these things in the secular world, but I've never seen anything like that for a Catholic, someone of faith living their faith out, right?
Yeah, let alone living in community.
Exactly. I mean, like how giving people a taste of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's for me. I think I love watching vlogs, and so that was really like a huge blessing to be able to respond to this call of, you know, this is what it means to live your faith out. I mean, I'm not saying we're perfect or anything.
But we're trying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Keyword trying. And yeah.
You know, one thing I recently asked the Vigar, where I am, right, Ligoriachin, what does he think? Because, I mean, these guys have come around the church and the rectory a few times. So
We take over the rectory every time.
I felt bad last time.
Every Sunday.
Acha, how do you feel? I mean, you can be honest. And, you know, because a bunch of, you know, college guys coming over, how do you feel? And Achin said, no, it's great because, you know, they want to live out their faith. And okay, I mean, different things might be there, but that's a great thing. And
That's awesome.
so, I mean, hey, this podcast, Nazaranis in the City, right? A lot of people live in apartments, live in the city, go through this struggle. But one thing that's different about what you guys are doing is you're trying to live together, but very much rooted in the faith.
Yeah.
You know, daily Kurbana, daily Mass, all these things. That's something that's different. You know, and so I'm excited for you guys. You know,
Yeah.
and you guys bring life to St. Thomas, Cerro Malabar Catholic Church right now. So it's great.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's been because that's so close to home for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do for our parish? And you know, you coming here was one step, and then like now them being here, I've already seen so much life of like. You know, so many people are just like so excited.
Yeah.
More young men than Abhi. like, you know,
Somebody to do incense.
Yeah.
Right. I love doing incense.
Yeah, and it's because one thing is like we would always talk about this idea of like we've had this privilege of going to seminary, right, and having this formation and discerning out, but having that formation time, right, and like really living in community with other young men, and like this desire to like how can we bring this to other people, because obviously not everyone can or should go to seminary necessarily, right, with that intention of just for the community.
Sure.
But like we can make this happen in some way.
Yeah.
And like that is kind of what we're trying to do, right? And without even really intending that, like now I'm realizing like this is something we should be encouraging people to do, right? Like if you have the opportunity to do this, do what you can to make this work, right? Like you have this desire to live with your friends, live with other people that are trying to practice the faith, and you really just need that time of like an environment to enrich that and to plant these foundations. Go for it. You know, like try to do what you can, and you know, offer it up to the Lord, because He takes care of it, right? Like we didn't have all the practical things set in place, so if it's there, go for it.
And I think that's really important to clarify, actually, because it's not that like this didn't happen because we were well off, you know, like that's there, but like it's because the Lord blesses it, and like I feel like most people maybe don't think about this because they don't even realize this is an actual thing that you can do, you know, like. And you're right. This should be definitely encouraged. Our faith, like it's inherently communal. It's supposed to be lived in community with other people. And yeah, I'll shout that from the rooftops. Like,
Yeah.
if every guy could have like a taste of seminary in like just like living that authentic faith with other guys, like it's
Why are you looking here?
Another podcast out.
yeah, like everybody has to have a taste of this.
Yeah.
And the Lord will bless it. I really do think so.
Yeah. I think like I've even seen it from, so there's like that communal lens and like the formation lens, but also like we've talked about with so many areas, right? Like that so many people struggle with in terms of like purity and personal formation, consistent prayer life, all these different things, and maybe anger, impatience, with, you know, things like doing the dishes or cooking or. I mean, it's for all of us, man. Suraj would talk more about his dishes experience, but yeah. So like, even this idea, right? Like how Scripture talks about if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think like, I think like I was almost like apologetic for this idea of like just do whatever you can, and like I would apologetic in the sense like I would apologize for it. I'd be like, yeah, maybe I am a little crazy about some of the things I do, but then like looking back and like looking currently what we're doing, it's like. No, like go to every extent you can to make yourself a more faithful follower of Christ. Yeah. And if that means taking crazy steps like this, like go for it.
Yeah, do everything you can to make the faith the center of your life. That's the way we ought to be living.
Yeah. And if you know there's something that you're struggling with, whatever it is, and you know that there's something that'll help you out of that, why wouldn't you go for it? Like don't think too much into like how the numbers play out, because the numbers did not play out for us, right? And like how these different things will work, and like, yeah, I can't give this thing up and I'll have to do this, and all these different things. Like you have to ask yourself, like, what am I willing to do, right? And it works.
Yeah.
But, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just go ahead.
Well, you know, we are saying all this right now. We're only 2 weeks in, so you guys will definitely get a recap of the 6 months at the end of the 6 months of everything that we do have to say.
Yeah, follow the vlogs along the way.
Yes.
Yeah. If you haven't watched our first vlog, do that. You'll get to see Uchin's reaction to us moving in and whatnot. But yeah, I think at the end of all this, we just also ask for your prayers that we can be faithful to what the Lord has called us to do here. We've got there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of ideas running. It's just a matter of if we can do it or not.
Yeah.
If we actually do it. So
you have the podcast, and then I guess that's one thing I wanted you on for, like, as we've come here, but also like even before we came here, you've probably had many dreams, right? We talk about so many projects. I guess like, what are your desires for these next 6 months and just going forward with, you know, what we can do here in terms of Zero Creatives, but also outside of that, right? We have so many things.
Yeah, I mean, well, I just want you guys to continue to grow, obviously. But I think for me, one thing I've been seeing as a priest that I need to do is more outreach, more videos. And, you know, sometimes it's been even the most random videos, like the promo we did for our tote bag, you know, that got so much, you know, attention. And it was a really quick thing, kind of in the spurt of the moment, a few ideas, and we threw it together, and it did pretty well. So I do hope that, you know, we can do things like that. Obviously, not necessarily just promoting, you know, merchandise, but things about our faith, you know,
shorter videos.
Yeah. As you know, as we're struggling to really live that faith, to be able to speak about relevant topics, and you know, being in a community environment at a more consistent base helps. I think fosters you know, videos like that in a more consistent way. Where when we were spread out, it's just like, okay, we got to do something, and maybe it's not always the best circumstance. And we've experienced that too, because I got to leave in a few hours. So we got to get this done, you know? So, you know, one of my dreams is just to be able to do what we've been doing, but better, you know? And there's a lot going on with the Zero Creatives initiative. You know, there's a lot more initiatives that are coming into fruition, but, you know, I just want to give more time to all things, especially. So, and then even with the podcast, right? There's, I think you have a whole
Oh,
you know,
got a
2-3
whole-
pages
yeah.
of topics that we can go deeper into. So, yeah, that's my dream, just to be able to, you know, put into practice some of the things that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So,
Amen.
Also, just want to give a shout out to our new blog that Sarah Creatives has
yeah.
published. It's at scbreathetogether.com. Once again, scbreathetogether.com.
The first post was written by my sister Divya. It was really good, really incredible.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, we hope to have them on the podcast too for
Eventually.
verbal form because, yeah, I mean, you hear all of us guys talk a lot, but I think you know many people have been asking for that female perspective as well. Start off with the blog. You know, the blog has especially with Divya's post, I think something many people may be able to relate to, and then eventually we'll have them on too and see where it goes. We're all mutually feeding each other, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Is there anything else to say? I don't know.
No, nothing.
I think we're good. Cool. Well, yeah. Thanks for listening. Pray for us and be on the lookout for what's next from Nazranis in the City and Surah Creatives. Praise be Jesus Christ.
Now, always, and forever.
Amen.
Good episode.